Hello, artists. This is Mr. Jankart with another element of art. This week's element of art is color. We all love color. It is a fascinating element of art. Can be very challenging to use, but we're going to learn a little bit about it, and hopefully it'll help us use it more effectively. So color is an element of art with three properties. They're hue, intensity, and value. We'll talk about those a little later. It is also the quality of light that's reflected off of an object. So if I drive a red car and you see me driving down the road, you see that I drive a red car. The reason you see red is because all of the other colors of the light spectrum hit my car and they are absorbed into that color, into the vehicle, so to speak. But what's reflected is red. And so that's how our eyes see by using light. And the quality of the light is red in this case of a red vehicle. So my eye takes that in and I see red. And that's true of anything that you see, whether it's the grass outside, the color of your desk, the color of your phone, whatever it may be. It's because of the light that's reflected. That's why whenever you go outside and you wear a black shirt, it's hot because all of the colors of light are being absorbed into your shirt. Nothing is reflected, and so that the sun is absorbing all those colors into your shirt and it gets hot. The opposite's also true. If you wear a white shirt, it tends to be a little cooler. That's because all the colors are being reflected, and when that happens, it appears to be white. So that's how our eyes work. That's how we see color. Let's take a second and look at a few works of art that show a masterful use of color. In this work here by Van Gogh, what I love about this work, and I always show my students, is that there is very, very little black in this work of art. In this bush right here, and maybe a little bit over here, there's a little bit of black. But what you see in most of the shading is a rich, darkish blue. You know, even on the trees, look how it's blue. The light that Van Gogh, or the shadow Van Gogh chose to use was blue. Even in the bushes, there's some blue scattered out through here. The blue is all through the cast shadows of the trees. The mountains in the background are blue. There's lots and lots of blue used for shadow in this. I would love to be able to ask Van Gogh if he used blue because of just his, he wanted to just experiment, or maybe he ran out of black. Who knows? But the fact that he was able to be this successful with his painting without any black is really, really impressive. I'm guessing he had some black because he does use it here and there and in some of the bushes. But great use of color. If we look at this painting by Severini, again, the way that he uses color masterfully that we usually point out is if you look at all these different objects, like here's a lady, here's a guy standing here, here's a woman's face, there's a locomotive over here, a carriage, a double-decker bus, oops. This is like a cloud thing going on. This is a man. But you can see all those separated, and the reason you can see them separated is because of the way Severini uses his intensity, his value in the use of color. And so it's just a great way. This is a lot harder than it looks to choose these colors when you're making a work of art that's like a collage. You have to be so careful and have planned this out so well to get this much separation in all of these objects by just using color. I mean, some of it is texture, yes, but the texture is really somewhat uniform across the work of art. What you see mostly here is these varying colors that help separate and contrast one thing against the other. So a really good example. And then lastly, this work by this artist here, I'm not going to say his name because I can't pronounce it right, I love this painting because it looks like it's wet. Maybe it's just rained and the sun's starting to come back out. But the use of color it gives it this celebratory feel. The buildings are colorful. The people are all wearing lots of color. Look how these folks are wearing yellows and blues and reds. Those are all primary colors, and they really give this sense of almost a playfulness to this painting. Really enjoy that. So I'm going to make myself disappear here so we can see clearly. So again, our primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. They're called primary colors because you can't mix any other colors to make red, yellow, and blue. These are the colors that we use to make all other colors. We also use blacks and whites, but as far as color goes, these are the three colors that all other colors start with. They're all born from these three colors. That's why they're called primary. We also have secondary colors. Secondary colors are made when you mix the primary colors. So you mix red and yellow, you get orange. You mix yellow and blue, you get green. You mix red and blue, and you get violet. Simple as that. There's also on this 12-point color wheel, there are tertiary colors, which is like saying third colors. And they're the colors that are in between red and violet. They're in between the primary and secondary colors. So you get red, violet in between red and violet, and so on and so forth. Their names aren't terribly interesting, but it is what it is. So lastly, we'll talk about those three properties that color has. Color's first property is its hue. Now hue is just its name, so think of like Hugh Jackman or Hugh Grant. Those are names, right? So that's how I always remember what hue is. It just has to do with the name of the color. So blue-violet, that's blue-violet's hue. The second part is its intensity or saturation. That just means how vibrant is the color. So if you look at this color wheel here, you'll see in the center the intensity is very low, and that gives it a grayish appearance. And as it goes further out, you begin to lose that grayish appearance, and you get more vividness. It gets the intensity gets higher, and as you get out to this outer ring, you start to see there's darker bands, and that's the value is getting darker. And so what happens there? Value is our last property of color. It has to do with the color's lightness or darkness. We already know what value means because we've talked about that element of art. But we have to remember that color also has value. And so what happens is if we add a color in white, we get a tint. And what that means, the way I remember that rather, is that white has an eye and tint has an eye. So it helps me associate those two. If you look in the center here, these are all tints of these different colors. If we add black to a color, we get a shade, and that's what you begin to see on the outside here is these shades of these colors. And then lastly, if you add gray to a color, it makes a tone. Now it's not the same, and you might think initially, well, how's that different than adding just black or just white? It is. It makes a big difference when you add a gray to a color. What it does is it dulls the color, it mutes it. It's very effective to use if you want your artwork to have a drab, dull, kind of heavy seriousness to it. You'd make several tones to use within that work of art, and that would help give it a more serious, more muted feeling. So there you have the element of art, color. I hope that you understand it a little more fully. We will talk about your theme this week being the landscape in your weekly sketchbook assignment. So enjoy the element of art, color. I hope you guys have fun using it this week and on into the future. Talk to you later.